The 513th Parachute Infantry Regiment, PIR, was one of the final American airborne regiments to enter combat during the Second World War. Though it arrived late, the regiment was immediately committed to some of the most intense fighting of the European campaign: urban combat, river crossings, and brutal winter operations. Serving as part of the 17th Airborne Division, the 513th PIR proved that airborne infantry were not defined solely by parachute drops, but by their ability to fight and win as elite infantry under the harshest conditions. Early lineage. The lineage of the 513th traces back to infantry units, constituted during World War I as part of the massive expansion of the U.S. Army in 1917 to 1918. Like many late war regiments, its World War I predecessors were organized primarily for training, replacement, and homeland service, rather than overseas combat. Following the armistice of November 11, 1918, these early formations were demobilized, but their numerical designations and lineage were preserved in Army records, allowing them to be reactivated for future conflict. Interwar years and the birth of airborne warfare. Between the World Wars, the U.S. Army remained small and underfunded. However, by the late 1930s, military planners began exploring airborne operations, inspired by foreign developments and new aircraft capabilities. The concept of parachute infantry, soldiers trained to jump directly into combat, would transform infantry doctrine and give rise to entirely new elite formations. World War II. Creation of the 513th Parachute Infantry Regiment, activation and training. The 513th Parachute Infantry Regiment was activated on January 1, 1943, at Camp McCall, North Carolina, one of the primary airborne training centers in the United States. From the outset, the regiment was composed of volunteers, men who accepted the extraordinary risks of airborne warfare. Training was among the most demanding in the U.S. Army and included parachute qualification training, long-distance marches, weapons and demolitions training, night operations, small unit leadership under stress. The regiment earned its parachutist status through attrition. Only those who met the highest physical and mental standards remained. Assignment to the 17th Airborne Division. The 513th PIR was assigned to the newly formed 17th Airborne Division, which trained extensively throughout 1943 and 1944. Unlike earlier airborne divisions, the 17th did not deploy for Normandy or Market Garden. Instead, the division and the 513th remained in reserve, training continuously while waiting for their first combat commitment. Deployment to Europe. The regiment deployed to England in August 1944, where it continued training for large-scale airborne operations. However, as the war situation evolved, the need for airborne drops declined, while the need for highly trained infantry increased. By late 1944, the 513th was still unblooded, but that would change abruptly. The Battle of the Bulge, baptism of fire commitment to the Ardennes. In December 1944, Germany launched its last major offensive in the West, the Battle of the Bulge. With Allied lines in crisis, the 17th Airborne Division was rushed to the front without conducting a parachute drop. The 513th Parachute Infantry Regiment entered combat in the Ardennes region, fighting as elite ground infantry under extreme winter conditions. Combat conditions included sub-zero temperatures, deep snow, limited winter equipment, heavy artillery, and mortar fire. Despite having no prior combat experience, the regiment fought with discipline and aggression, quickly earning respect from veteran units. Operation Varsity, the last airborne assault crossing the Rhine. In March 1945, the 513th PIR finally conducted its first and only combat parachute jump during Operation Varsity, the airborne assault supporting the Allied crossing of the Rhine River. Jumping into Germany itself, the regiment faced heavy anti-aircraft fire, scattered drop zones, immediate ground combat upon landing, paratroopers assembled under fire, seized objectives, cleared enemy positions, and linked up with advancing ground forces. Varsity would become the largest single-day airborne operation of the war and the final major Allied parachute assault. For the 513th, It was both a vindication of years of training and a costly initiation into airborne combat. Final drive into Germany. Following the Rhine crossing, the 513th Parachute Infantry Regiment continued advancing eastward as part of the Allied drive into the heart of Germany. Combat now took the form of urban fighting, clearing fortified towns, capturing prisoners and equipment. As German resistance collapsed, the regiment transitioned to occupation and security duties, overseeing surrendering enemy forces and stabilizing liberated areas. On May 8, 1945, Victory in Europe Day, the men of the 513th stood as combat-proven paratroopers, having gone from training fields in North Carolina to the final airborne assault of the war.